Hey friends. Wow. Change of scenery? Anyone? I mean, that's hard to beat. We just got here a few hours ago. I traveled up with my daughter. Katie's coming in tonight. What can I say? It's landing in paradise. It was a reasonably long travel time because we stayed overnight after we flew into Grand Rapids, which is nearby. And I realized, you know, it was kind of an interesting experience because we did our 14-day raw vegan cleanse. And then truly on day 15, I got up, had a couple hours, and got on a plane with Annalise to fly here. So reintegrating, restarting a regular diet, which, you know, we didn't dive headlong back into that, but coming off the cleanse, actually, it was a weird way to do it because it's hard, you know, a full travel day is just kind of a wonky way of starting. Although I have to say, there was something about, I had a light breakfast that morning, and then basically, I didn't eat all day, just because of the nature of travel. We got on a plane, had a light breakfast, a little bit of a nibble before we went to the airport at 10:30, and that was kind of it. And then we were on planes. We had a delay, and then we had a tight connection, and then we had another delay as we sat on the plane. So, and I have to say, and as that happened, my body was just kind of like, that's cool, I'm all right. I think I had sort of not come out of cleanse mode yet, so my body was like, oh yeah, we're not eating right now. It's all good. And I tracked that because it's unusual. Normally a full day of travel like that, by the time I get in, or even partway through it, I would get hungry. And I did. By the time we got into Grand Rapids, I was pretty hungry. And we ended up eating, it was nearly 9 o'clock at night, or even later. It was nearly 10 o'clock at night. So, so what that kind of gave me, and then having today to sort of gently travel up here, settle in a little bit, what that gave me was a sense that my body is coming out slowly. And I listened, I was able to almost perceive, because yesterday, because I didn't really go back to eating full meals, I kind of slowly came out of cleansing mode, but I kind of stayed in it all the way into the evening. Woke up this morning, still had a little bit, I don't know how to describe it. It's a feeling in my system, and I associate it with alkalinity, trending towards alkalinity. It's like there's this gravitational pull, and I don't know if I'm correctly identifying that, because it's hard to verify that my internal perception is the chemical transition or the chemical process of moving in the direction of alkalinity. But I'd put a pretty good bet on it, because I've done this enough times now, and I've had enough, you know, even outside of the cleanse, I've had that experience when I kind of go into an alkaline diet phase. I just have this feeling like this is what my body feels like on the interior when I'm moving in the direction of alkalinity. And if you haven't seen any of my previous posts about this, alkalinity, I haven't done a lot of posts on alkalinity, but body alkalinity is one of the big factors in health. If we have an alkaline system, in other words, if our general state of the interior of our body has an alkaline balance, it's almost impossible to get sick. I mean, when I was raw vegan for a year and a half, really solid, and then kind of the last 6 months, even still pretty close, I never got sick. It just didn't happen. And for ever since then, really, it's been at this point about 15 years, 14 years since I stopped being raw vegan. And I still very, very, very rarely get sick. And if I do, I kind of know, I can kind of tell that it's coming, or I can ward it off. If I sense, it's like I get a feeling that my system is going into a state where it would be where an illness or virus, bacteria could flourish. I can feel it inside me, and I can adjust. Usually, I can kind of go, whoa, let's adjust and avoid it. Now, every once in a while, that doesn't happen. I got COVID, and I've gotten a handful of flus over the years, but I mean, it's less than once a year. It's once every, I don't know, 2 years maybe that I get sick. But out of this experience of being in a really sort of deeply alkaline, moving state, I can't say my body was alkaline, because it takes a lot of time for a system to transition. It's not like this happens overnight. So 2 weeks of a cleanse like this makes a big difference, and especially it makes a big difference because our whole intestinal system, the gut biome, is getting healthier, cleaning out some clutter, you're venting mucus, you feel your system getting rid of the trash. But you also, it's only 2 weeks. So it's a great step, it's a great measure, but really we need to keep that happening, keep an awareness of that throughout our lives. And because of this very, in a weird way, gradual transition, I had a sense that I talk about in other areas. I talk about this on piano. I talk about this in meditation. A sense of contraction and expansion around my interior perception and my awareness of food. So in other words, when I'm on the cleanse and it's getting intense, either I'm getting hungry or I'm feeling that kind of alkaline tug after some certain number of days of eating a strictly raw vegan diet, there's a certain kind of contraction that happens where my awareness it becomes like a laser beam around the area of food. And it's intense, and it's actually one of the reasons that I ultimately gave up being raw vegan full time, was because I felt like I had to in order to keep that up, and I did it for 18 months, but in order to keep that up, I had to just tighten my awareness to a kind of a laser beam around food for essentially indefinitely, especially because by and large, that's not a lifestyle, that's not a form of diet that is just ubiquitous. You go to any restaurant, you go anywhere, every grocery store catering to it, and that's not the case. I mean, like the raw food aisle at Whole Foods now is like one little stand, and that's like some dehydrated kale chips, and maybe if you're lucky, there'll be like some kind of raw wrap thing that's made of sprouted buckwheat with some seaweed around it. Like, that's the raw section. And so it's hard to live like that. It's hard to keep your diet that restricted in the context of the environment we live in and of the resources and the food outlets that are around. And at some point I decided, that's not what my life is about. I don't want to make it all about food. I want to maintain this awareness and certainly understand, if I can, even build on this awareness of how diet affects my health and my body and fitness and all those things. But I don't want to do this all the time day in, day out and be so strict about this diet. So that laser beam of focus, I decided I'm gonna let that relax in this area of my life, because there's other areas that require that laser beam of focus, right? To learn an instrument, to learn piano in a deep way takes that kind of focus. To write a show takes that kind of focus. To work as an actor, to practice the craft of acting requires that kind of focus. Anything, really, that we deeply care about in our profession or even sometimes our personal lives can require, for a while, putting that laser beam of focus on it. And I think what I found was I'm keeping that laser beam on food to the exclusion of other things because I have to if I want to do this. And I don't think I want to do that. I don't think I want that to be my main thing. And that kind of came back to me as I was coming out of it, because I noticed how both my body was kind of transitioning back. In other words, that feeling of alkaline tug was subsiding a little bit. I had a Caesar salad with a salmon steak on it last night, which is still pretty alkaline. You know, there's some animal protein in there, but that's a pretty alkaline meal because it's mostly salad. And then this morning I had an English muffin with egg and avocado on it, and immediately I felt my system go, oh, okay, we're back. We're eating some cooked carbohydrates, and it was a spelt English muffin. Happened to find this fantastic breakfast place with a really light and fluffy spelt English muffin. It's like a miracle. And you know, and then some avocado and some eggs. But that cooked carbohydrate plus some dairy plus some eggs was enough to be like, okay, my system was like, all right, we're not moving in the direction of alkaline anymore. We're kind of just sitting where we're at. And as that happened, my awareness came off that. It's like that interior perception widened out, and it was like I had headspace for other things. And I'm doing a post about this because I think it's important. It's an aspect of this that's important to acknowledge. It does take that kind of focus, and I've done this cleanse probably 15 times. So that's something to keep in mind as part of what is involved, and part of what you it's almost like you want to really go there. It'd be like doing a 2-week fitness regime that was kind of like a fitness boost to set you up for a more long-term practice, but in the short term it was like really intense. That's the kind of attitude that it sort of takes to really do this. And I think I'm gathering little by little a handful of people who want to do this cleanse with me, and at a later date, we want to, maybe in the fall, we're going to do it again, do another 2 weeks. And so I'm planting that seed both for myself to remember, because I think it's important, but also to kind of like remind myself to introduce people to that, because that's a thing that you kind of have to just surrender to. You have to give in to the fact that it's going to take your attention in that way, and be okay with it. Know that it's not indefinite. Know that it's not forever. But know that you're gonna really put some intense awareness around that area of your life for a limited amount of time, both to create a result, but also because then going there in the rest of our lives becomes easier. We've done we've kind of run a marathon, so now going for a quick jog every day or every whatever, however often, is not so hard. You know, we've kind of given ourselves the strength and the endurance to do that. So it's mostly a reminder for me, but it's also a little bit of a window into this process if this is something that would interest you. Anyway, mostly I'm just excited to be here. Talk about allowing my focus to relax. I think I can do that here. for watching, folks. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Sorry, this boat wake is making noise behind me. But thanks for tuning in. I will see you for several more days like this right here. Ciao.